Okay, let's jump right in. Welcome back to today's Explainer. We are tackling a seriously striking and honestly pretty controversial philosophical essay today by the author Zhu Feng. It's called In the Natural Order, Barbarity Overcomes Civilization. And look, this piece is going to force us to take a really hard look at just how fragile human civilization actually is, and how unbelievably powerful our environment can be. So let's get into it. To kick things off, Zhu Feng poses this fascinating little thought experiment. Imagine you sow wild grass seeds and wheat seeds together in the exact same patch of dirt. You don't intervene. Zero weeding, zero fertilizer. You just leave them completely alone and come back a few years later. What's growing more abundantly, the wild grass or the wheat? Well, it's pretty obvious, right? We all know the wild grass totally takes over. But watch how he takes this simple idea and runs with it.
He yanks this concept straight out of the garden and applies it directly to human nature with a second rapid-fire question. Imagine a wolf cub and a human infant raised together, out in the wild, with absolutely no outside intervention. What happens? Does the wolf cub somehow learn to become human, or does the infant revert to a wolf? It's a super dark, incredibly provocative image, but it perfectly sets the stage for the big ideas we're unpacking today about human nature and the spaces we live in.
And that brings us straight to the author's core thesis, this idea that barbarity naturally overcomes civilization.
So Zhu Feng has a very specific definition for what he calls the natural order. He sees it as a state where primitive, barbaric, and frankly backward elements just naturally possess way stronger survival instincts, allowing them to overpower refined civilization. Basically, he's arguing that civilization is always playing from behind. It's delicate. It's like that wheat we just talked about. It needs constant tending and protection. Barbarity, on the other hand, that's the wild grass. It's crude, it's tough, and it is relentlessly ready to take over.
Think about it like this, and this perfectly illustrates how insanely vulnerable we are to our surroundings. If you drop a normal adult into a group of scientists, they are highly likely to start thinking and acting like a scientist. But take that exact same person and put them among a group of thugs for, say, 3 to 5 years. Are they going to emerge as this refined, perfectly polite gentleman? Zhu Feng argues absolutely not. They're going to turn into a thug. The civilized mind, he warns, is just so easily hijacked by the wildness around it.
He even brings Elon Musk into the mix to make his point about culture. It's a really interesting hypothetical. He asks, if Musk had been raised entirely within a strict Confucian culture from childhood, would he still be today's globally celebrated technological Iron Man, or would he just be a staunch cultural conservative? The author's claim here is totally unambiguous. He believes that even the absolute most brilliant minds are completely, 100% products of their cultural environment. If the culture demands conformity, then guess what? Even a genius conforms. To really hammer this home, the essay drops this heavy line. If an angel remains surrounded by devilish influences for an extended time, the angel will likely become an accomplice to the devils. It's a grim perspective for sure. In Zhu Feng's eyes, goodness and refinement aren't these unbreakable magic shields. They are actually highly susceptible to being captured and corrupted if they sit in barbarity for too long.
So why exactly does this happen? Let's move on to the raw power of our environment and how assimilation is tied to basic survival. The logic he uses here is brutal, but honestly, it's pretty simple. Civilized people are easily captured by barbarity, but barbarians are incredibly difficult to civilize. Why? Well, it all comes down to sheer survival instinct. The essay argues that the more primitive, ignorant, or crude something is, the stronger and more unyielding its survival instincts are. It doesn't need a complex electrical grid or delicate social contracts to keep going. It just survives, no matter what. Refined traits simply don't have that kind of crude resilience.
Now here's where his deductions get extremely controversial. He takes a look at human history and claims that if a culture endures for thousands of years without falling, that doesn't actually mean it's great. In his view, that longevity proves the culture has a terrifying capacity for corrosion and assimilation. He argues that surviving that long signifies the culture is relatively barbaric and crude rather than advanced and civilized. It's a total inversion of how we normally celebrate ancient, long-lasting traditions. He's essentially framing their survival as proof of their uncompromising, wild grip on people.
He wraps up this whole terrifying dynamic of environmental assimilation with a really punchy, vivid metaphor. Quote, "Living in a pigsty for a long time will eventually turn you into a pig. Living in a sheep pen for a long time will turn you into a sheep." The point is, it literally doesn't matter how disciplined you think you are in your own head. Give it enough time, and your environment will digest you and reshape you to fit right in.
All right, so is there any hope? Let's look at his escape plan for defending your civilized mind. First off, he lays out the red flags, the environments and mindsets you have to actively run away from. He lists 4 major pitfalls. First, obviously, barbaric and backward places. Second, closed-off places that are unwelcoming to outsiders. Third, unreasonable, barbaric people in your immediate personal circle. And fourth, people with a really strong traditional consciousness. He argues that these are the pigsties from his metaphor. By sheer proximity, they will drag you down, so you have to be vigilant about avoiding them.
On the flip side, here is your action plan. Step 1. Physically move towards civilized, developed, and open places. Step 2. Surround yourself with civilized people. Step 3 is all about your headspace. Don't complain, don't lose your temper, just focus all your energy on moving closer to civilization. And step 4 is the ultimate backup plan. If you are totally trapped in a bad environment and physically cannot leave, you have to strictly maintain your independence and cling to your civilized principles to survive the assimilation process.
Which leads us to the ultimate end game of all this effort, what he calls walking toward heaven.
The author claims that all this self-cultivation is useless if you're still weighed down by society's heavy anchors. He explicitly lists several burdens that he says will absolutely prevent you from reaching this elevated state, this heaven. According to the essay, these burdens include traditional notions of marriage and family, nationality, religion, political parties, and the everyday pursuit of money, power, and fame. His perspective is that if you're attached to any of these things, you are still permanently chained to the earthly, barbaric struggle.
So, wrapping all this up, what's the ultimate takeaway from Xu work? He summarizes his entire philosophy by stating that shedding these societal burdens and walking toward heaven is the most valuable and the wisest choice you can make in life. For him, it's the ultimate deliberate rejection of the natural order's inevitable pull toward decay and barbarianism.
Okay, so this definitely leaves us with a ton to process about the spaces we inhabit every single day. So I want to leave you with a final provocative thought. Take a look around you right now. Think about the people you talk to, the places you go, the media you consume. Is your environment a field of wheat? Or are you slowly being swallowed by the wild grass? Keep analyzing your surroundings. Keep questioning things. And thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.